Hi, everybody, and welcome to Redis Labs Cloud Days with AWS, unlocking the value of your data on cloud with Redis Enterprise and AWS. I want to thank you all for joining today. I want to run through a quick agenda of what we'll be covering today and some few housekeeping items. So I'll walk through first some speaker introductions. Then we'll go over Redis Labs and Redis Enterprise Cloud in an overview version. We'll talk about the partnership with AWS. We'll highlight a customer story with Akata, and then discuss Redis Enterprise Cloud demo. We'll close out and then have some questions at the end. So the folks that will be speaking today include Ryan Powers, Director of Product Marketing Cloud here at Redis Labs, myself, Teasara Thompson, who is the Strategic Alliance Manager for Redis Labs. We have Srini, Pendyala, who is the Cloud Partner Solution Architect for Redis Labs. And then joining us today is Antony, Prasad, Thevaraj, who is the Solution Architect in Data Analytics for AWS. Now I'll pass it over to Ryan Powers, who will go over an overview of Redis Labs and Redis Enterprise Cloud.
All right, thank you, Teasara. In my section, I'm going to be going over the cloud and the benefits associated with it, the different on-ramps to the cloud, the challenges associated with each of those on-ramps, and how Redis Enterprise Cloud enables you no matter where you are in your cloud journey. So the cloud provides enormous value. Most customers being able to build new digital applications quicker that are gaining these new revenue streams, consolidating data silos to gain visibility and streamline business, simplifying operations and reducing TCO. So being able to really get the cost reduction that you want. A lot of customers do this as their first step on the cloud. And scaling business up and down instantaneously with elasticity. Think about things like Cyber Monday in retail and Black Friday. Cloud-native apps are disrupting the way businesses are run across all industry verticals. Always on, always working apps for 24/7 flawless customer experience. And competition is one click away, right at the fingertips of a user. But the cloud also brings about inherent challenges. Whether you're on-ramping to the cloud through cloud migration, one of the biggest ways that customers are migrating to the cloud through lifting and shifting workloads over from on-premise servers to the cloud. Challenges start with things like hybrid compatibility, being able to have software that works both on-premise as well as in the cloud. Data silos, data on your on-premise servers as well as in the cloud in different environments, private and public. Availability as you start to scale out. And the cost associated, unlike most folks think, while it may be better when you get to the cloud, it can be very costly if not done correctly while you're migrating. And a microservices architecture is only compounding the complexity. So we think about the shift from the infrastructure layer from on-premise to the cloud, but also the shift from monolithic applications and breaking up those applications into microservices. On this data layer, folks are starting to use things like decentralized database management, having different data sources per each service, whether that be authentication, a session store, for example, a catalog, a search function. This can be expensive, complex, and slow very quickly using different vendors and different database management systems across all of your services. And cloud native is a whole other on-ramp, right? Think about companies in the Silicon Valley moving straight to the cloud, not going on-premise, not building out their own servers and managing those, going straight to the cloud. This brings about a whole new set of challenges. Think about things like microservices, containers, and serverless functions that this cloud-native world brings about. The hyperscale and elasticity that is needed for these ephemeral types of technologies. The hybrid and multi-cloud uses, depending on the customer use cases. And global data distribution. There's just simply a lower barrier of entry to have data across the globe once you move to the cloud, or just leveraging cloud regions as opposed to having to spin up a data center in Europe to be able to service your customers. If we step back, really, data is at the root of most cloud challenges. I love this statistic. 91% of organizations moving to the cloud specify mass data fragmentation as the cause of not fully realizing cloud benefits. And the data challenges are only growing. Maybe 10 years ago, consumers were the ones creating and managing data on their own applications. This has completely shifted over to enterprises as technologies have allowed for folks to run that data on the cloud. Zettabytes of existing data will be created and managed by enterprises in just the next few years. So as we think about lifting and shifting from the cloud, from on-premise to the cloud, you also need to be thinking about your modern cloud data layer. That has to be reimagined, has to be thought about as you're also shifting your infrastructure. Redis has been super popular along this journey due to its speed. It's the most used database technology in AWS according to Sumo Logic, the most loved technology according to Stack Overflow the last 4 years running. And the key here on the left side, the most used database technology. Most folks think about Redis as synonymous with cache, but we've been seeing an influx and a huge amount of growth in our users and customers leveraging Redis as a true database. Because now your real-time use cases are not just niche, they're becoming the core part of your business. And that's what we've built here at the home of Redis. Redis Enterprise is a software version of Redis, fully managed by the customer. Redis Enterprise Cloud, fully managed. In a partnership with AWS, we have it being sold via Marketplace, giving you all the different use cases you need for your modern applications, whether that be fraud detection, real-time inventory, forecasting, leaderboards within gaming, caching, as I mentioned before, session management, Customer 360 for retail, claims processing for healthcare, and recommendation engines. All of these being able to be used, as well as the modules and the data structures that you've come to know and love with open source Redis, and the core enterprise features you need to really, truly move the needle of your business and not worry about your data infrastructure. Let's talk about a few of the unique values that Redis Enterprise brings to touch on that last part. Performance at scale, no speed and scale trade-off. So being able to go through hyperscale, but also still maintain that sub-millisecond latency. Optimized TCO. A lot of folks come to us and say, well, Redis is in memory. It's very expensive to put all of our data there, especially the mission critical data that we need. Redis on Flash is a feature of ours that you can leverage to get away from this. Doing more with your data, leveraging modules in the multimodal database. Redis Search, Redis JSON, Graph, Time Series, just to name a few, that you can leverage all the different data types you need within one unified database, cutting down on those data silos. Operational flexibility, the elasticity that I talked about, the instant failover that Redis Enterprise Cloud performs, the high availability in 5 nines with active-active. And above and beyond this, just the pure abstraction of your infrastructure. You no longer have to worry. It's completely serverless, whether you're using us as a caching service or a database. And developer productivity, as I touched on before, no longer worrying about managing this service. This is not the core part of your business. So as you grow with your data, leverage a vendor who's trusted, the home of Redis, the creators that continue to commit the most to the open source code that can help you on your cloud journey. So doing more with Redis Enterprise Cloud, really talking about the different use cases that you can leverage us with. Often folks are starting to use us as a cache and moving into a real-time database, but sometimes they will completely just adopt us as a database to start with. The sub-millisecond latency that I talked about, the 5 nines availability with active-active geo-replication. Effective TCO with our multi-tenancy and tiered memory access. Those data models that I spoke about, Redis Search, Redis JSON, Graph, Time Series, and more, that allow you to build those applications and modernize them. And future-proof, if you're using AI and ML, we have serving capabilities, an inferencing engine, as well as a feature store to power your real-time applications, and a programmable data operations across all of your different data models. And with that, I'd like to pass it off back to Teasara and Antony. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, for the overview of Redis and Redis Labs. I'd like to switch gears by highlighting how Redis Labs and AWS are partnering together. Redis Labs is committed to providing the best customer experience. We've done that in a couple of ways by leaning into our partnership with AWS. One, we are an advanced tier technology partner, which is the highest tier technology partner can achieve. And what that demonstrates is our significant investment in technical proficiency, a proven experience in building software solutions on top of AWS, and a track record of delivering customer experiences that are excellent. In addition, today you can actually find Redis Enterprise Cloud, a fully managed service on the AWS marketplace. And it's built by and ran by the makers of Redis. It offers all the capabilities of Redis Enterprise while taking all the operational aspects associated with operating Redis in the most efficient manner. By purchasing Redis Enterprise Cloud through AWS Marketplace, customers really benefit from simplified and consolidated billing. In addition, in most cases, customers can use their financial commitments with AWS towards the purchase of Redis Enterprise Cloud. AWS customers now have access to Redis Enterprise Cloud functionality, including the cost effectiveness offered by Redis on Flash, high performance, modern data models with Redis modules, and built-in high availability and local low latency and active geo distribution. We understand that AWS is committed to helping partners like Redis Labs not only grow, but making customers extremely successful by providing support, enablement, and technical assistance. So now I want to pass it off to Antony, Solution Architect in Data Analytics for AWS, to discuss what sets AWS apart.
Thank you, Teasara. A lot of our partners ask us the same question. Does AWS support a hybrid approach? And the answer is yes, we do support hybrid models, right, with other cloud providers. But what sets AWS apart versus the other providers at the moment? By 2024, more than 45% of the IT spending on system infrastructure, software and application software, and business processes will shift from a traditional solution, which is on-prem, to cloud. And we have been anticipating this shift since a long time. So we've been starting the migration in phases, right? You don't want to end up at the customer's doorstep and tell them, hey, you know what? We want to migrate everything from on-prem to AWS cloud within 2 months. No. We divide them into phases and give the customer the advantage to migrate certain specific code or modules at first. Our efforts have been recognized by the deepest and broadest sets of customers across the industry, be it any vertical. AWS has millions of active customers every month. And what's an active customer? An active customer is a non-Amazon entity that's used our service in the last 30 days. Some of the customers include Capital One, Intuit, Disney, FINRA, Netflix, and Nordstrom, just to name a few. In addition to customers, we work with thousands of system integrators who have built practices in AWS, including Accenture, Deloitte, Capgemini, Cognizant, just to name a few. Efforts from AWS have been recognized by third-party vendors as well. Gartner positions AWS as a leader in the Magic Quadrant for cloud infrastructure and platform services worldwide. Now, the AWS customer base and innovation leadership have helped AWS establish and maintain its market segment as one of the leaders in the industry. Now, beyond infrastructure, what AWS also provides is it expands its services to support virtually any cloud workload. And our pace of innovation is accelerating. Just to give an example, Redshift launched over 150 new features in the last 2 years alone. And Amazon Redshift has been one of the fastest growing services that we have at AWS, but that's been the volume and the pace of acceleration that we're talking about. And it's not just the pace of innovation, but it's also the breadth of AWS services that we cater to. We have some of the services that cater to the AI and ML space that have been leveraged by several partners and customers alike. AWS is constantly innovating to make pricing more efficient. Obviously, everyone wants to know about costs, right? And it's completely transparent to the customer. AWS has actually reduced prices of the services 85 times since it was launched way back in 2006. I'll hand it over.
Thanks, Antony. So now we've looked at things at a high level. let's get into an actual customer use case. I'll pass it off to you, Srini, to dive into the details.
Sure. Thanks, Teasara. So let's look at a customer use case story here. So here we have Ekata, who are actually now part of MasterCard. Basically, they deliver best-in-class identity verification solutions leveraging their machine learning technology for the financial services industry. Ekata actually deployed Redis Enterprise Cloud on AWS to deliver their solutions for their customers. Now, generally, Redis is mostly used as a distributed cache in enterprise architectures. But for those customers who explored further with the Redis Enterprise Cloud, what Redis Enterprise Cloud has to offer, they have gone ahead and used Redis Enterprise not only as a caching layer, but as a primary database too. And Ekata stands as a great example of one such customer who employed Redis Enterprise as a primary database to serve more than 2 billion plus API queries on their data for 1,700 companies across 238 countries globally. And all of this is possible with Redis Enterprise Cloud running on AWS global infrastructure. Now, let's look at some of the challenges Ekata was facing while adopting the right solution for their business applications. Number one is like stringent KPI requirements that they had. Ekata serves clients' requests against a graph data of 10 terabytes with more than 5 billion plus of identity graph entities. And each of these requests further fan out as subqueries that traverse through an additional 8 billion links. And all of this subgraph retrieval of data should be achieved with latencies below 20 milliseconds. And that translates into a data store level latency of less than 0.5 milliseconds and achieving an overall throughput of 350K requests per second. Now, these stringent KPIs were an absolute need for them to serve their customers globally. Ekata was also primarily serving customers in the United States and Canada, but as their businesses grew globally, they started serving more than 1,700 organizations across 238 countries, and they were looking for a system that could scale linearly with consistent latency and stability of at least 4 nines of uptime. Now, this also demanded their systems to be very highly available across multiple availability zones with failover and replica capabilities. Now, given all these stringent challenges that they already had, Ekata was also evaluating other open source NoSQL and document-based databases in the market for their use case. Sure enough, Ekata could gain greater scalability and great community support from these databases. But very soon, they realized that the underlying data structures that these databases provided were not very well suited for their use case and involved a more learning curve for new application development on their teams. Now, given all of this, let's look at how the Ekata's journey has been through while solving these challenges for themselves. Here is a very high-level, big picture of their journey in finding the right solution for their challenges. First, they remodeled their data layer using Redis data structures. Next, they realized the incredible value of leveraging AWS global infrastructure to serve customers across the globe. This naturally led them to choose Amazon's Elasticache. Amazon's Elasticache really solved their latency requirements. Now remember, Elasticache also uses the same Redis protocol as Redis OSS, and hence, the lift and shift of their workloads became very easy and involved absolutely no additional learning curve overhead for their new application development. Now, AWS global infrastructure really provided a greater ability of scalability and elasticity that they were looking for. But as the data volumes increased, the TCO aspect of running their systems on AWS became a little concerned. They wanted to evaluate and explore further to seek any other optimal solutions. But they absolutely loved AWS, and hence they wanted something that still works on AWS global infrastructure while being a little more cost-effective. Now, this further led them to a self-hosted Redis that had a similar performance as Amazon's Elasticache, and it also reduced their cost while they were still running all of their systems on AWS. However, this posed a newer challenge of operational management overhead, of really managing the entire cluster operations themselves. Self-hosting a 4 terabytes plus of a data cluster for the operations teams was not an easy job, and that took away their valuable time from further innovating on their core business operations. And that led them to a final solution that they found. A fully managed database as a service from Redis Enterprise Cloud on AWS with Redis on Flash feature was the ultimate solution that really solved their stringent SLA requirements, as well as achieving significant cost savings while still running everything on AWS global infrastructure, just like the way they wanted it to be. Now, Redis on Flash enabled them to gain highly optimized I/O with RAM-like latencies using NVMe flash storage volumes. Redis on Enterprise Cloud, right? That enabled them to use better utilization of node resources. And AWS global infrastructure in general also enabled them to make their applications available across the globe to serve these customers in 230 plus countries across the world, across the globe. So what were the results that they achieved by doing so? Ekata was now able to deploy their solution on AWS global infrastructure, thus enabling them to serve approximately 10 terabytes of data to customers across 230 countries. Redis Enterprise Cloud saved Ekata approximately 60% cost per GB of data, and the number of nodes required to host entire data has been reduced by about 30% by employing Redis on Flash feature. Redis Enterprise Cloud also enabled them to achieve approximately 0.1 millisecond database latency during peak traffic, while still serving the queries that would span 3 to 4 levels of depth on the graph identities data that they had. And this significantly reduced their operational overhead by employing a fully hosted database as a service from Redis Labs. This also required no additional training, and they could also take full advantage of 24/7 enterprise support from Redis Labs. So that's the story with Ekata so far. Now let's look into a product demonstration. Let's get into a product demo to showcase how easy it is to deploy a Redis Enterprise Cloud cluster on AWS. This is going to be a fully managed database as a service, and it's in the cloud on AWS. And basically, it relieves your teams from the overhead of maintaining and operating a Redis database cluster and gives them more time to focus on new application development and other innovative projects in your organization. Now, we have different plans that you can subscribe to. Now, to maximize the value of what we offer, you ideally would like to use an annual subscription. For the demonstration purpose, I'm going to use the flexible size subscription plan here. Truly, the difference between the flexible and annual plans is that the annual plans will get you that enterprise-grade 24/7 support, access to customer success management teams, private offers through the AWS Marketplace, etc. A flexible plan does everything that annual plan does, but minus that 24/7 support, access to customer success management teams, etc. So I'm going to really choose the flexible size option for the demonstration purpose. On the Create Custom Subscription screen, I'll start with giving a name to my subscription. I'm going to call it as a Cloud Day subscription. Next, you have an option to use Redis on Flash or not. Redis on Flash basically extends your DRAM capacity with SSD and persistent memory to store significantly more data with fewer resources and thus reducing your costs. The idea is that instead of keeping all of your data in memory, you can only store the hot data in the memory. And warm data, the less used portion of your dataset, that can be stored on the flash storage. Generally, if your datasets are north of 500 GB, you get the most optimized performance with significant cost savings with Redis on Flash. For the demonstration purpose again, I'm going to use and choose regular RAM as the configuration option. Next, I will choose AWS as my preferred cloud service provider. I will define my region as US East 1 and select multi-zone as yes to facilitate in-memory replication of my data to another zone within the same region. Now in the networking section, I have two options. I can choose to deploy my Redis Enterprise cluster either in a new VPC or in an existing VPC. If you choose new VPC, you will want to set up a VPC peering to application. If you want to choose an existing VPC, then the idea is that you want to deploy your Redis Enterprise cluster in the same VPC as your business application is in. Now again, for the demonstration purpose, I'll simply choose a new VPC here, and I'll define my deployment CIDR as 10.10.1.0. Now if you click on advanced options, you can also define your preferred availability zones to deploy your Redis cluster. For now, I'll choose no preference. And also, Redis Enterprise offers persistent storage encryption options for your datasets, especially for the data that is at rest. Now, when you choose this as yes, then the persistent data is written to encrypted EBS volumes. If you are using Redis on Flash, then the flash memory data is also written to encrypted NVMe SSD volumes. For the production workloads, you should select this as yes. But for the demonstration purpose again, I'll just simply choose to say no for now. This will get us to the sizing screen where we can start designing the databases that we want to deploy under this subscription. So I'll go ahead and give the details such as database name, memory limit in gigabytes, and so on. You can define the memory from 1 GB to all the way to terabytes of data too if you want. In general, again, like I mentioned, anything north of 500 GB, you would want to take advantage of Redis on Flash for significant cost savings and for optimal performance. I'll just choose 20 GB for the demonstration purpose again. You can also define other requirements such as throughput in terms of operations per second or number of shards. Additionally, you can even install these modules. Redis modules are add-ons to the core Redis data structures that extend Redis functionality to cover most popular use cases such as textual search, secondary indexing, support for graph, JSON, and time series data. So you can install these modules if you want to. Then you can turn on the replication or turn it off. For production workloads, again, you almost always must plan for replication being turned on. This enables instant failover by keeping standby in-memory replica of your original dataset. For the data durability purposes, Redis Enterprise Cloud also offers different data persistence options, like what you see here. You can create append-only f-syncing every single second, or for every write operation. Or you can take a snapshot of your database every 1 hour, 6 hours, or 12 hours, depending upon what level of data durability you really desire. For now, I'll choose none and click Save. But for your production workloads, it's highly recommended to choose either AOF or snapshot options shown here. After you save your database DB1, in this case, you can create more databases if you want, as I'm doing here by adding another database called DB2. Now for this database, I'll go with defining throughput by mentioning the number of shards I want. And then I'll choose a Redis module called Redis Search 2. And let me also define my data durability by choosing to snapshot my data every 12 hours and then clicking Save button. That brings us back to the sizing screen, and if you click Next button here, the system will actually calculate the optimal number of cloud resources needed for your cluster, and it deploys your Redis cluster on AWS. In this case, we can see all the details of the subscription with the two databases I have just now created. And then you can see the cost estimates for your resources. For example, here you have 3 R5 extra large EC2 instances and an EBS volume of 345 GB being provisioned on AWS for your databases. Finally, it gives you an estimated subscription price per month and per hour. Now, you can also click Continue to proceed to provisioning your clusters on the AWS once you review all this information. And this may take some time to provision. Here you go. The subscription is now ready. As you can see, the green check mark on the top right-hand corner. And here, you can see all of the details of your Redis Cloud subscription again. On the Security tab, optionally, if you have your own VPC running in your AWS environment, and you want your resources provisioned in that VPC to connect to your Redis Enterprise Cloud clusters, then you can define the VPC peering by providing the details of your AWS account, region, VPC ID, and VPC CIDR information. Alternatively, you can also directly define CIDR whitelist to allow specific IP addresses or AWS security groups to be whitelisted so that you can access your Redis Enterprise Cloud databases from those specific IP addresses or hosts that are part of that security group. Finally, if you go into the details of one of your database, you can notice that the Redis Enterprise Cloud has published a public and a private endpoint for your database. Now, this is the power of database as a service from Redis Enterprise. The entire infrastructure for your clusters, of your Redis clusters specifically, is completely abstracted for you behind these endpoints. That means your application developers just focus on developing your most innovative business applications using these database endpoints, while we take the entire operational burden on our shoulders of maintaining your clusters as a part of providing a fully managed solution from Redis Labs. Now in this case, you see this is the host number and the host name, and this is the port number as shown. And this is all your developers need to connect their business applications to Redis databases on the back end. Now here is a demo of a retail banking application that will showcase the power of using Redis Enterprise Cloud as a primary database and not just as a caching layer. Here is a Spring Boot application that is built from ground up using Redis Enterprise Cloud as the primary database. Now I'll simply fire my browser and log into this retail banking business application by providing my user credentials. And here I see my account in this fictitious Redis Enterprise Bank. Here you can see my account summary details along with my current balance and overall cash flow being depicted in the form of a graph. On the right hand side, you can see a breakdown of how I am spending my money. And at the very bottom, you can see all of my recent transactions. The technology under the covers that is actually powering this business application is Redis Enterprise Cloud running on AWS, with Redis being used as the primary database. Now, to simulate these transactions being streamed, we are using Redis Streams data structures. To plot the graphs with the data, we are also using the power of another Redis module called Redis Time Series to query the database based on timed durations. Now let's go ahead and search my transactions and see how much I'm spending on my coffee at Starbucks. There you go. Even before I could finish my search, the results are presented to me so fast. No wonder how customers like Ekata could meet their stringent SLAs around less than 20 milliseconds latency by running their databases on Redis for faster performance. Okay, how about how much of money I've been spending on the gas for my automobile? How about searching for my monthly car payments on BMW? Here you go, these are the results. The technology that is powering this fastest search capability under the hood is called Redis Search. Now this is another module that is part of Redis Enterprise offering. Redis Search enables fully textual search capabilities, secondary indexing, and many more such functionalities. So that is Redis Enterprise Cloud on AWS. It's a fully managed database as a service in the cloud, and many of our customers like Ekata are not only using it for caching, but they are unleashing the power of their business applications by using Redis Enterprise as a primary database itself. And with the partnership of AWS, you can run the fastest real-time business applications on AWS global infrastructure with Redis Enterprise on cloud, with 24/7 enterprise-grade support, access to our customer success management teams, and other Redis experts from Redis Labs. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
I want to thank everybody who presented today. If you have any questions, you can always email us here.